Hey everybody, so I'm just going to go over quickly the steps that we're going to take today. These are the things you'll be accountable for to have finished by the end of the day, and it's a pretty basic process, but within this process you can do all kinds of exploration. So the first thing you're going to do is fold, which most of you have already done. Lots of folding, and then unfold, right? And you should have papers like this for your favorite, whatever your favorite one is. So the most beautiful folded and unfolded paper that you have. Then you're going to scan that paper, scan it at 300 dpi in JPEG format. It's probably the best way to go. Then we're going to place that file into AI, which is very easy to do, but there's some specific things to keep in mind with that. We'll trace the lines, the fold lines that are on the paper using the pen tool in Adobe Illustrator. We'll make that object into a live paint object, and then I'll show you how to use the patterns that you made and use those to fill the drawing that you make, or the trace lines that you make. So here we go with an A4 page in Illustrator. I want to go to File, Place, which is Shift Command P. Placing is different than copying and pasting, and it's important that you do the proper one. My Google Drive is having a bit of a meltdown tonight, but let's see here, the briefs. So we want to take the scan that we have and place it, and when you place it, it'll give you this little arrow that shows up, and it's saying basically like it has a document ready to drop. If you click, it'll drop it at the size of that document, which is what we want. If you click and drag, it'll drop it at the size of your click and drag. So be careful just to click once so that it drops in the proper size, proper resolution. You can check it here, right up here. If you've done it properly, it'll say the name of the file and it'll say the resolution here, 300 by 300 ppi. If yours doesn't say that, go fix it. It's good practice to do it properly. So here we are, and with this selected, I can see that there, because it's an image, it has this X on it and the border around it. You don't necessarily need that. You can shut it off a variety of different ways. Pardon me. But just for our purposes, I'm just going to lock it quickly. So the quickest way to lock an object is Command 2. So I'm just going to press Command 2, locks the object. Now that's not going to move. You can see that it's perfectly centered on my artboard. If you're worried about it, Option Command 2 will unlock it. Select it. Choose center and center, and it'll put it exactly where it needs to be. But anyway, it's already there. So there you go. You're going to get the pen tool right here, and all the lines we make need to go outside the artboard. That's the main thing to keep in mind. That, and you want straight lines, so you click once and go across. You know where this is supposed to go. Click again. Now if I want to do another line, it's giving me a preview of the next line. If I want to deactivate that line, I can press the Command key and click off somewhere else in the document, and that deactivates it, which is good because I don't actually want to keep it going. So keep going like this until all the lines, all of our fold lines are complete. When I'm doing a vertical or a horizontal line, I hold the Shift key to make sure that it's perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal. That'll always help us. You see these little red guides start to show up too to help us align things. Those are called smart guides. It's not perfect in here, is it? I can fix that, but I think I'm just going to go ahead with it the way that it is for now, and I'll see how it plays out as my design continues to evolve here. So once we've got all those lines traced, yours may not look like this. It may look like something completely different. That's okay. We want to make sure we put a box all the way around it, so you can type in the dimensions, or you can just click and drag, and I think you can come pretty close. And that shape, I'm going to hide my artboard for a second. Shift Command H. Why I do that is just so that I can see the edge that I just drew nice and easy, and I can also see if all those lines do in fact go outside of the page, and they do. If you're a little bit OCD like me, you may want to come back and select those, holding the shift key, and snap them onto that edge. It's not a big deal whether you do or not in this case, because you're going to be filling it, and it's not going to matter. So we're just going to select everything that we see here, assuming that your paper scan is locked. If it's not, make sure that it is. So you can either put it on a separate layer and lock that layer, or you can lock it as an object with Command 2. Mine is locked. I'm going to select everything, and then I'm going to go to Object, Live Paint, Make. It's going to turn this into a live paint object. So what does it mean, live paint object? Well, that basically means that everything that's in here now has a bounding box with these funny little X's around it, and when I press the letter K on the keyboard, it gives me this paint bucket, and you can see when I hover over these shapes, it gives me a choice of fills. If I press my left or right arrow, I can scroll through each of the different fills and click and put them in there as I want. This is not quite what we're doing, but it's not too far off. So what we need to do is grab our patterns. So go to your patterns. These are the 4 that I made just a little bit ago. So I'm going to grab all 4 of those that are in. You guys will have a template, but anyway, whatever you have, wherever your patterns are, you can copy those. This is the easiest way to do it, fastest. And then come into this document and paste them. And you'll see when you do that, it brings them over here and puts them in the swatch palette. So if I press the K key and then I go over here and I choose one of my swatches, you can see now I'm able to fill those shapes with the patterns. Now I may have a plan for what I'm doing, but I may not, and I may just want to experiment a little bit. That's why we think this project is interesting, because it gives you the opportunity to experiment with different quickly with different arrangements. I think I like that better, and without a lot of loss, and you can kind of sketch and see how things go. This is gonna look good like that, yeah. And so you can see it starts to come together. Then once you're done with that and you're happy with the result, let's get a couple more in here. And I will show you how to proceed. Fine, let's say that that's good. Okay, so when you're happy with the result, you can go to File, Export, Export As, and in this case, I think there's a couple ways you can do this, and it really depends. We're not at school, so it's a little bit tricky. So probably the best way to do this is to just go ahead and save it. So we're going to go ahead and save it. Okay, we want to save it in this case as a PDF file. So we go to File, Save As. Let's call it paper. Actually, just for you all, it's a good idea to put surface space full 20. Davis is my name. Let's do paper, plain, Davis, and it's 1. I'm going to make a lot of these, so I need to know which one's which. Let's start with 1. I'll save it into my demo folder as soon as my mouse comes back to life. Here we go. Save. Okay. And then when I go to print this, I'll actually print the PDF, but just for the sake of expediency, let's look at printing right here. So I'm going to print, I'm going to print to this printer, which I have access to, and I'm going to print it on A3. If you don't have A3 access, then you can go to school to get it. And I think for your finals, it makes a lot of sense to do that. For your sketches, you probably don't need to, but most printers will leave a little bit of an edge, around the side, because it has to grab the paper and pull it through when it prints. Whereas if you print on an A3, then it allows you to trim it out perfectly full bleed. Full bleed just means the image goes all the way to the edge. So in this case, we're going to print it full bleed, just like that, and make sure it's not scaling. This is a really important thing. No matter what we do, we want to set the scale of our documents before we send them to print. We really prefer not to have the computer doing that. We're not exporting a JPEG to print. We're not printing it from preview. We are printing from either Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Illustrator directly to the printer, not scaled, and this makes it's a vector. It's much cleaner. It's not an image. You have a much better output, and it will be the right size, which is totally what you need. So go ahead and click print. While mine is printing now, I don't have access to an A3 printer here at my house either, and I'm on home quarantine, so I'm a little bit stuck. Maybe you are too. So do your best with what you've got. And when you get your printout, you can notice a few things. It has that edge that I was talking to you about, right? Like, it doesn't show the full bleed image that we wanted it to have. We want it to go all the way to that edge, but it doesn't. So that's not so nice. The other thing that I noticed that I'm going to want to change before I do my final is see the edges that are in here, or the strokes that are there from the lines that we traced in there. I don't think those look very good in my final design, but there they are nonetheless. So the next thing that I need to do is fold this one up and see if I like the design of the plane. So now that I did a quick fold and I have my final, or whatever, my first printed outcome folded, I see a few things that I'd like to change. Not just with the way that I designed the patterns, but also with the way that the patterns land on the object. And I notice, like, this part I like quite a bit, but it's hidden on the inside. And I noticed that this, because it's the other side of the sheet, I'm going to want to print that too. So I need a different strategy for what's happening maybe on the top and on the bottom. I also noticed that most of my patterns are geometric, and I wonder if I want to try and combine something that's a little bit more organic. But once I combine these things together and make it into a thing, then I can start to design the final outcome to be the kind of look and feel that I want it to have. So that's it. And if you have questions, find us, and try and help you out.